Welcome to our lesson today on understanding computer hardware components. Today we will explore the essential parts that make up a computer system. This knowledge is crucial for everyone or anyone looking to work with computer or pursue a career in IT. So what is computer hardware? Computer hardware refers to the physical parts of a computer that you can touch and see. These components work together to allow the computer to function. Understanding these parts help you troubleshoot issues and make informed decisions when upgrading or buying a new computer. So over here is actually the types of computer hardware, the internal computer hardware and the external computer hardware. So what are the main components? These are the core components found in most computer systems. Each plays a crucial role in the computer operation. We will explore each of these in more detail throughout the presentation. So we'll be looking at the central processing unit, the RAM, the storage device, the motherboard, the power supply unit, and the input and output devices. So if this is actually a picture of your RAM, your motherboard, your computer, and almost all computers have motherboards. So both your smartwatches, all your devices have motherboard, and they have some kind of chip, which is a CPU, and also have a chip too that actually represents a RAM, and also a storage devices that stores little, may not be much amounts of data, but little data. Then you have GPU, but mostly in computer systems. So we're looking at all these components one at a time. So the central processing unit, often called the brain of a computer, is responsible for processing data and executing instruction. It is one of the most important components affecting the computer's performance and is very, very important. So this CPU over here, this is actually where it's slotted in the slot on the motherboard, is one of the most important things to look out for when you are either purchasing a computer or either upgrading. So it's very important to know the CPU and how it works, because that is actually the most important thing that affects a computer performance. And something to take home today: when you're purchasing a computer, the CPU can hardly be upgraded. So it's actually something you need to look out for. Some of other ones we're looking at, you can upgrade it, you can buy someone and another one to replace it, but the CPU is never done that way. So when you hear about computers being dual core or quad core, it refers to the number of processing units within the CPU. So if you have here dual core, quad core, core i5, core i7, i9, and so forth and so on, it determines actually how many processors that are in charge, how many cores of processor that is processing the information in your CPU. Then we'll look at the random access memory. This random access memory, otherwise known as RAM, provides quick access memory for the computer to store data it's actively using. So whatever data your computer is actually using, or like this presentation I'm making, is actually running on the processor, the RAM, which is actually whatever I'm working on now is actually on the RAM. Whatever you're working on your phone or your tablet or your desktop computer, all are working actively on the RAM. The more RAM a computer have, the more programs it can run simultaneously without slowing down. So the more RAM you have, the more RAM you have, the more programs you can run on your computer. If you have a lower RAM based on the gigabytes, that is how your programs you can run will be lower. So you can open multiple tabs at a time. You can run different programs at a time. So that's actually being factored by the RAM. So when you close a program, the data it was using in RAM is cleared, making room for other applications. So that's why most times those that are using phone, when they close their program, we tell them close your computer, your apps, so that your system can be faster. So you just that those apps are run on the RAM. So if your RAM is getting filled up, what you just need to do is just close your applications that are opened, close the ones that you're not using, and it will now make your there will be now more room in your RAM for it to function. Then storage device. This holds your data permanently, even when the computer is turned off. Hard disk drives use spinning disks and are cheaper for large capacity. So then we have the two types of the hard disk drive, which stores information for longer. We have the SSD and we have the HDD. HDD has larger capacity and is slower and is mechanical. So while SSD is faster, more expensive, and no moving parts. This is actually the new ones, the new trends in technology. So even though you have an old system and want to make it look as if it's new, you can just get up SSD, install on it, it boosts your boot time. So if your system takes like 3 minutes, but some people may take less than that, maybe 2-3 minutes to put up. But when you get SSD, it will just go maybe within 30 seconds to 1 minute, your system is up and your informations are fast, but it comes with a cost. So what's the cost? It is very expensive. SSD is more like 3 times or 4 times the price of its equivalent storage device in HDD. So SSD has no moving parts and are faster, but typically more expensive. Modern computers use a combination of both for balance, performance, or storage device. So, but for you, if you're actually using a PC personal system, I'll just say, okay, go for the SSD. But to balance, like many companies, organizations actually use the both of them. Mostly their operating system is actually installed on the SSD for faster processing. Then maybe their personal files they want to store can be saved on the SSD. So that's why they use the both of them for the combination. Then we have the motherboard. So the motherboard is like the central nervous system of the computer that houses all these components we have looked at. It provides connection for all other components and allows them to communicate with each other. So the motherboard actually gives that communication for each of them, every component to communicate together. It contains the BIOS or the UFI, which is the firmware that helps start your computer and manage hardware. So the BIOS or the UFI in one of your systems, you may have seen BIOS or you may have seen UFI. So this is actually the firmware that allows your computer to boot up. So you can either boot up to UFI and BIOS. The basic physical difference between the two of them, BIOS doesn't allow you to use your mouse and your keyboard to actually control or configure anything on it, while the UFI allows you to use your keyboard and your mouse to do some configuration. That's the basic. I'm not going into the deep part of it. So this is actually the motherboard and it houses all the components. So here is actually where your CPU is slot in. This is actually the RAM slots where you can plug your RAM. Then these starter slots are actually for your external hard drive if you want to connect your hard drive. Then these are actually the ports, your VGA, your USB, and some other ports. Actually, it houses everything. And the power supply unit is crucial for converting AC power that comes from your wall socket into DC power that the computer components need. So all these computer we are looking at, all these components we are looking at actually runs on DC, which means direct current. So, but your power that comes from your transmission line through your power socket is actually AC, alternating current. So it's not actually good. It can fry each of these components we have looked at the past immediately gets in contact with it. So what does the conversion is actually your power pack or that is a common name power pack or the power supply unit. So this one is actually the crucial part that makes you converting AC current to DC current. It's important to have the PSU with enough wattage to support all your computer component, essentially if you have high processing parts or plan to upgrade in the future. So if you actually want to upgrade, make sure you have a good high processing high wattage, which is how many the size of the power it consumes. So the higher the wattage, the more job it can perform or it can execute. Then you have your input and the output devices. So the input and output devices allows us to interact with the computer. Input devices send information to the computer, while the output devices present information to us. Some devices like touchscreen can function as both input and output devices. So the touchscreen works as both input and output devices. So over here is actually where you have your um, here you have your output device. This is actually your input devices. So here is the monitor. Then you have your headset, then your speaker, your printer, your projector, and flash drive. So projector is actually all these output devices do what? They pull out things to you for you to see. While the input devices are the keyboard, webcam, which I'm using to record this, your mouse, and your microphone, your scanner, and joystick. So these are actually your input and devices. Then computer hardware components. All these components work together to make a functional computer. For example, when you open a program, the CPU reads the instruction. So if you open a program, your CPU over here, which is actually this heat and processor fan, cools the heat that comes out from the CPU. So it actually reads the instruction that is actually when you open the program, it actually reads the instruction and loads it onto the RAM for quick access. That's why the RAM is closer to the CPU, because it accesses whatever instruction that comes from the processor, which is the CPU, and loads it on the RAM. So it needs to be close to it so that it can actually load information faster. So this is actually a quick one you guys can do when you have opportunity. Put those online, and whoever comes across this, is actually good. Just take a look at Motherboard. You can actually go to where they fix computer. You can open your computer. You need to be very careful when doing that. But study the structure. You can actually go online, watch some motherboards and pictures. Notice that the RAM is always closer to the CPU. So when you see a slot CPU, the next part you see is actually very close to it. Is actually the monitor that actually is close. I mean, the CPU is always close to the RAM for easy access to, so that it can load the information. So for quick access, then processes that data and sends the output to the display. So when the RAM is done processing it, sends it to the output for you to display to your monitor or your projector, whichever display device you are using. So this is the process that it goes. Then when it's done displaying it for you to see. So understanding this interaction helps you troubleshoot and optimize computer performance. So if you understand, oh, this is the process, my CPU processes the information, sends it to the RAM holds the information and stores it, and whatever instruction that the CPU is doing is loading it on the RAM for quick access, so that the RAM can just hold it. When it's done processing the data, it just sends it to the output device for you to see. So if you understand this, when an issue is coming up on the system, it can help you in troubleshooting and help you to actually optimize performance. So if your system is slowing down, you know, okay, this is where it's coming from, and otherwise. So this is actually how the components will come together to make your computer work. Then the practical exercise. So we identify these components in a real computer. So we are going to look at these components and identify them in a real computer. Make sure to ground yourself actually, and be sure before you start doing this on your computer or any computer device you come across. Be careful on how you handle, especially the RAM is a static. It runs with static charge. So be careful on how you hold the RAM, because over here these pins over here are actually works very well. So you need to be very sensitive so that to avoid clearing the information out of it. So we are going to look at this component. This is actually the storage device HDD, which you all know, and you have your CPU, you have your motherboard. This is actually RAM and SSD. The SSD, most SSD looks like the RAM, so but you just need to be careful. The SSD actually have the terminals where they are connected to the motherboard towards the width of the stick, while the towards the height of the stick, towards the smaller edge of the stick. So when you notice any device that looks like this, that has the terminals that is connected to the motherboard towards the side, it's actually SSD. But RAM actually has its own by the width of the stick towards this side. So this is actually how you can differentiate these two components, should in case you actually come across any one of them. So to wrap up all what we have said, understanding this computer hardware component is fundamental to working with computer effectively. This knowledge will help you to make informed decisions about upgrading, troubleshooting issues, and appreciate how your computer functions. If you have any questions about what we have covered today, you can actually drop it in our Google Classroom platform where our class is going on. I'll also drop a link to read in this video in case you want to join. But if you also want to drop it in the comment section below, you can do that. Thank you and see you in our next class.